Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're also going to stick to my home county of Skåne here in the very south of the country. For this review we're going to return to a brewery that you've seen me review many things from before. This must be review number 15 or so from this brewery if memory serves me correctly, and they've always got some really interesting beers actually. The reason that these guys are so interesting is that they are predominantly a specialist sour beer brewery. So for this one then we are going to go to Landskrona, which is just a little bit to the north of me here in Lund. I used to work there as a science and maths teacher actually, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Brekeriet, who are very well known in Sweden and further afield these days. So this particular beer is called the Nobel Ek. It comes in at 7% ABV and it's a Saison aged in Rioja red wine barrels from Spain for around 9 months, and this beer was released as part of the Lokal Småska Ligged assortment for September of 2020 on the 1st of the month actually, and I got this one along with another big bomber type bottle beer that they released as well, so you will see that one reviewed a little bit later on actually. But this is one that just caught my eye because of the name of it actually, the Nobel Ek, which is I think is pretty cool. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. It's been a long time since I've had a Saison, and it's been about 3 or 4 months actually, maybe even a bit longer, since I reviewed a beer from Brekeriet as well. So very curious to see how this one turns out. Brekeriet of course have a very unique style when it comes to the sours compared to the other breweries that you'll find in Sweden, and they were the first brewery to kind of specialise in these beers in Sweden, which makes them doubly interesting. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Brekeriet before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is that takes your fancy. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brekeriet then, on to my brewery notes. So Brekeriet, as I've told you before, were originally based in Jörslöv, just outside of Malmö, but they're now based in Landskrona, a little bit further north. So the company was founded back in 2011 by the Ek brothers. This is Fredrik, Christian and Andre. And this is a specialist brewery in wild beers, sour beers, whatever you want to call them, using Brettanomyces and Lactobacillus. As I mentioned earlier, they were the first brewery in Sweden to do this, and they probably are the most prominent sour beer brewery here in Sweden actually, although a number of other breweries such as Morgendagens, Duck Pond, Örebro Brewhus are doing some very interesting things as well, and there's a number of sour beer breweries that have opened up these days, and probably Brekeriet did serve as a bit of an inspiration to them. I think it's safe to say that. But the original brewery that these guys had was in the old brew house in Jörslöv, and this was actually a share or commune brewery, as some people might call it, for the local farmers. So they brewed their first beers there back in 2012, and this brewery had a very modest production capacity of around 500 litres per brew, and this gave them a yearly output of around 38,000 litres. They continued to grow over the coming years and just get their beer, you know, a little bit better known throughout the county, and then in 2015 they went to a new brewery in Landskrona, which started off being able to produce 20 hectolitres per brew, and they now have a fermentation capacity of around 80 hectolitres, which is constantly being expanded. Initially they produced their Wild Bunch beers, which was the non-sour series, continuously in Landskrona, but they were brewing the Sour Patch, which was the mixed fermentation sours and speciality one-off beers, down in Jörslöv for about 1.5 years, but then all of the production was moved to Landskrona back in 2017, and they created a separate area in the brewery for the mixed fermentation, from what I understand. These days they've also got the Wild series, which is their barrel-aged beers, and they use a variety of different yeast strains in that, from what I understand, and there's some really interesting beers in that actually. I do have one of those to review for you at some point soon. That's a collaboration with First Viacek from Germany. But in 2020 these guys also started distilling as well, and they released their first products in the latter part of that year, and I think they were called Wild Spirit, if I remember rightly, and they do seem quite interesting actually, so maybe I'll need to have a taste of one of those at one of the next beer festivals or something like that. That could be quite interesting to see what those are all about actually. There's quite a few breweries starting to have a go at some distilling things now. But if we jump back a little bit, in 2014 this brewery actually caused a little bit of a stir because they withdrew completely from Systembolaget in Sweden, citing the bureaucracy of the nationalised system. So there was a period of time, and it was actually when I just moved to Sweden. It wasn't until about 2016 or so that they actually put their beers back into Systembolaget. So there was about 18 months, 2 years or so, where you could not get the Brekeriet beers in shops in Sweden. You had to go, at least maybe you probably could get some of the folköls in the supermarkets and things, but at least you had to go to Denmark to get the Starköls, if you like, the stronger beers. But as of October 2020, when I am filming this review for you, this brewery has produced around 185 different beers, which is pretty impressive. These guys are very, very prolific. They're always trying different things with different sour beers. Occasionally you will get a non-sour beer from them, but yeah, it's the sours where they really shine. Probably my favourite beers that I've had from these guys, the Swedish Ninja that they did with Pipeworks over in America was lovely. The Wrapped in Red is a really nice one as well. The Sour and Salt was a very nice one from what I remember, and there's also the Purple Rain. That's another very, very good one. So yeah, you know, have a go at some of those beers. You will find some really, really interesting things from Brekeriet, and as I say, Sweden's first kind of specialist sour beer brewery, which makes them pretty cool in my mind. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Brekeriet for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So like I told you at the start of the video, this one is a 7% Saison. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork there. You can see the bottle is sweating a little bit because it is still quite warm here in October actually, but you can see on the side here the Nobel Ek 2018, so this one's obviously been brewed quite a little while ago and then aged for a good wee while before it's been released, but it says an elegant and organic Saison aged in Rioja wine barrels for 9 months. There you can see the Brekeriet bottle cap on this one, and this beer is this 75 centiliters, so yeah, it's a 750 milliliter one. You can also see it has the European Union organic symbol on it as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this one contains rye and wheat and a little bit of sugar apparently as well, so yeah, this one should be quite interesting. But yeah, nicely presented this one, the Nobel Ek. Yeah, should be very, very nice. So without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, let's see. I will be sharing this beer as well with my friends after I've finished filming the review. But I can tell you something, just going from the look of this, I think it's going to be very nice. I have to admit, I would have thought that this would be a darker colour. I really thought this would be a bit darker in colour when you consider that the Rioja wines are usually red, from what I remember. So quite surprised about that, but then again, if it's infused wood, yeah, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, I would have thought that this beer would have, you know, just been even a little bit darker. It's just the same kind of colour as a Pilsner or something like that. Really surprised at that, I have to say. But yeah, it does look like a very, very attractive beer. When you shine the light through this one, it's definitely a lovely kind of big, bright, pale golden straw colour. You can see that it poured with just a very, very thin kind of creamy layer on top of it. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, and overall, well, I say the head is just a kind of surface, to be honest with you, but overall it does look really nice. Pale golden straw, you know, pretty much crystal clear actually. Surprised as well that this beer is as clear as it is. Let me just check, is there a bunch of sediment on the bottom of this? Actually no. If we shine the light through it, no, not really. That's crazy. Would have expected a little bit more from that. I'll maybe sugar it up a little bit. Maybe, let's just put a wee touch more in and see. No. Kind of unusual. Yeah, okay. It's a wee touch hazier, but as I say, I don't see much in the way of sediment at the bottom of it anyway. But yeah, you can see if The glass is sweating, but it's still pretty damn clear. Wouldn't have expected that, to be honest, but yeah, as I say, it does look pretty nice. This colour isn't unheard of for a Saison, but like I say, usually you would expect them to be a little bit hazy, but yeah, lovely pale kind of golden straw colour. As I say, it looks like a very, very attractive beer, this one. So let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one. I'm very, very curious about this. Ooh, yeah, that does smell very, very nice. Yeah, straight away with this one, it's quite interesting because you can smell the mix, the base that this beer has is really nice. You can smell those kind of lovely woody notes out of the beer. The wood's almost got a little bit of a kind of muskiness to it, and there's maybe even a little almost leathery quality to it, which is quite interesting. But yeah, you can smell the kind of the nice kind of grainy rye notes coming out of the beer as well, which I do quite like. So yeah, quite a nice little bit of a kind of rye, brown bready sort of thing. Yeah, I really like how that goes together. Yeah, this one's it is quite nice actually in terms of its aroma. It's got a good little bit of complexity to it, to be honest, which is good. So like I say, you've got a nice little bit of an almost spicy woody base to the beer. You do have a little bit of a kind of rye, brown bready quality in there as well, which is quite nice. You can smell some of the white bready notes as well from the wheat in this one. But yeah, it really comes across as quite an almost rough-edged, kind of grainy sort of thing actually. There is almost a wee touch of a herbally vegetal kind of thing in there too. But yeah, on the woody side of the beer, it is quite interesting. You can definitely smell the big kind of vinous notes out of this one too. Yeah. It does smell a little bit more like it's white wine barrel aged than red wine barrel aged, to be quite honest with you. Like I say, I thought Riojas were red wines. Tell me if I'm wrong on that in the comments section below. I'm really not sure, but it does really smell like it's a white wine barrel aged beer, this, and it smells very, very nice in that sense. So yeah, the Saison. The sort of Saison elements of it, they almost seem as if they're infused into the barrel aged side of the beer. As I've told you before, when it comes to aroma and flavour, you get, when it comes to barrel aging, I always find that the flavour profile, at least, and the mouthfeel kind of drops back a little bit. The barrel aged beers for me always feel a bit thinner actually than the original ones. But yeah, you've got a nice little bit of a kind of spiciness to the beer and the woodiness. You can get all of that out of it. It does have a wee bit of an almost hoppy quality, a little bit of light earthiness in there, some floral notes and a little bit of grassiness, but when it's been barrel aged for 9 months, most of that hoppy character will have dropped out of it. I would suspect that they're doing similar to what the Belgians do when it comes to sour beers. They'll be adding, maybe at the time they would add fresh hops to it, but it'll be Belgian or sort of German noble hops that they'll put in these, not too high in terms of alpha acid. But yeah, nice little bit of grassiness in there, wee touch of floral character, and a little bit of the earthiness is still lingering there as well, but probably nowhere near as pronounced as it would have been if the Saison hadn't been barrel aged. But yeah, you do get on the fruity side of things of this one. There is a wee bit of a lemony zestiness to it, maybe a wee touch of lime, but there's a good bit of gooseberry in there, maybe some perry esters as well, and you get that big, slightly sour, citricy, green, white, grapey kind of note out of the beer, which is what you expect of the Saison actually. Did it say which one of the yeasts they'd used in this? I didn't pay much attention to that. No, it doesn't say whether it's Lactobacillus or Brettanomyces. It could be other ones as well, because I think these days Brekeriet probably have a lot of house yeast strains that they've kind of bred themselves, to be honest. But yeah, the aroma that comes out of this is very, very nice actually, and it looks like a very attractive beer. So yeah, for me, it's a very well balanced sour in terms of its aroma. It's got a bit of everything. It's got the kind of woody, biscuity sort of notes. You've got a bit of the kind of hoppy and soury notes. So yeah, quite an interesting one in terms of its aroma. Let's have a taste of this now then and see how we get on. This one is the Nobel Ek, the Noble Oak, named of course after the three brothers, Christian, Frederick and Andre. Their name in English means oak, as in the oak tree. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then. Slange, skål, cheers. That is quite nice actually. Not what I expected at all, right enough. It's a very clean kind of crisp Saison, this one actually. I really like this. This, as I say, this is not what I expected at all, but I really do like this one. So thumbs up to thumbs up to Brekeriet once again. I think this is one of this is definitely one of the cleaner and crisper beers that I've had from these guys, come to think of it. But yeah, this one is really damn nice actually. So yeah, 7% Saison aged in Rioja wine barrels for 9 months. Turned out very nicely. So yeah, with this beer then, straight away you get a nice little bit of woodiness. You can feel that lovely smooth woody quality just blanketing the middle of your tongue there, which is very, very nice. And if you move further forward on the tongue to the kind of front of that, you know, almost to the front of that middle third of your tongue, you do get a few wee vanilla notes out of this one, which is quite nice. But yeah, you feel the slickness of the wood there, that lovely kind of oaky smoothness there. That's what really forms the linchpin, the backbone of this beer. On top of that, you do get a wee bit of a, you do almost get a wee bit of a kind of, how do we say, you get a wee bit of a, you do get a little bit of a kind of bready note out of this one, which I think is quite nice. You do feel, you can feel some of the, on the back third of your tongue, you can feel the wheaty notes. You can feel the wheaty notes just coming out on the back third of your tongue there, and then it's a bit more grainy. As you go towards the very back of your palate, you get a little bit more of a bitiness out of the wheat, but the wheat's very smooth on that back third of your palate. And as you move further forward into the kind of middle third of your tongue, it's got a wee bit of a, it's definitely got a bit more of a kind of rye-ish, grainy type quality. It feels a little bit more brown bready in the middle third of your tongue. So it's quite interesting how the wood forms the backbone there. You've got those kind of vanilla notes towards the front of that middle third of your palate. Then you've got a bit of a kind of rye bready note there as well. But then the wheat is almost exclusively on the back third of the tongue there. So that's quite an interesting point to make about this one. But yeah, this is, I like this one, I certainly do. The thing you can feel about this, it's got a nice little bit of an almost biscuity sweetness in the, it's almost got a nice little bit of biscuity sweetness in the middle of the palate there as well. So you just get, on the back of that, on the back half of that middle third of your tongue, there's a wee bit of an oily kind of circle there, a little bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. And I like how that, I do like how that goes together. It does maybe have a wee touch of caramel in the very centre of the palate there, which is quite nice, and that does balance out what is quite a grainy malt base with just a little touch of sweetness. So that is quite nice, that. And when it comes to the woodiness, the more that you drink of this beer, you do start to feel the kind of an almost sort of white winey, vinous type quality out of this one. So that is quite interesting how this beer develops. This beer I think takes a little bit of time to kind of mature on the palate almost, so I like that about it as well. Yeah, it smooths out and just, it becomes, the breadiness in this beer I think really kind of spreads and smooths out a little bit more the more that you drink of it as well. But I think you know, what we've said already describes it quite a lot. This isn't the most complex of barrel-aged beers and stuff that you're going to come across by any stretch of the imagination. It's quite a straight shooter actually, in my mind, but it really does kind of smoothen out and mellow out the more you drink of it. I think that's definitely a fair statement to make about that, to make about this one. So thumbs up to Brekeriet for the way that this has turned out. This is very, very nice. I didn't expect something quite so crisp, to be quite honest with you, but this, the last Saison that I had from these guys, I can't remember what it was called, but I remember being a little bit disappointed with it, to be honest. But they said that that one wasn't intended to be a sour beer. This one is definitely more like a kind of clean, almost kettle, I don't know if you can call that a kettle sour, is that the definition of kettle sour? This one's a lot cleaner and it just works a lot better than the last Saison that I had from these guys. So yeah, quite an interesting one. But yeah, for me, this is where Brekeriet really shine. They're very good at making these kind of clean, very crisp sour beers. You know, wrapped in red, purple rain, sour and salt. Those are the ones that kind of stand out in that regard for me. Those are very, very nice. Those are the three that I would recommend for anyone to try, actually. Yeah, this is very, very nice in that sense. The further that you go into the aftertaste with this one, you get a wee bit more of the rye coming out. You get a little bit of the kind of woodiness and a little bit of a little bit more of the brown sugary sort of thing. It does develop a little bit of that almost Werther's originally type brown sugary thing in the middle of the palate there too, so I quite like that about this beer. On the hoppy side of things then, or on the edge of the tongue, a little touch of earthiness in the back corners of the palate, but as you move further forward it does spread a wee bit. You get a wee touch of a kind of herbal quality, and as you reach the front corners of the palate it's got a nice little bit of a floral aromaticity. Then round the very front curve of the tongue it's a little bit lighter and a little bit more grassy for me, but yeah, when it's been aged in the barrels for 9 months the hops have dropped off quite a little bit and they seem a little bit more kind of smooth, if you like, and a little bit more rough around the edges, which is quite nice, and that gives the beer a wee bit of an almost kind of rusticy quality, but it goes in well with the kind of barrel aging notes that you have from this one. But when it comes to the wine barrel aging, I think it really is kind of quite subtle, to be honest with you. It really does taste that this is a white wine barrel aged beer, and I would suspect the colour would be significantly different if it had been red wine barrel aged. But as I say, correct me if I'm wrong on that. I don't know if you can get white Rioja wines actually, because I know Rioja is a region rather than a kind of wine, if you like. So yeah, I would assume that they would grow white grapes and white green grapes, whatever you want to call them, and the purple red grapes actually. So yeah, this one, this beer for me, like I said, is very, very nice. Let's look at the fruity side of it and the kind of sour end of the beer. So yeah, front third of your palate then, that's where you get the nice oily bubble, where those juicy fruity esters come out of the beer. When you take this one in, there is just a little touch of that kind of citricy, vinous sharpness to this one. It comes out a little bit more the further forward on that front third of your tongue that you go, but yeah, if you go towards the back of that front third of your tongue, just on the border region there, you will get a few kind of grainy, almost like not charred, but you know, dry woody kind of notes there. It's a dry woody thing that kind of forms the border between the middle third of your tongue and the front third of your tongue. Then as you move further forward from that, you really get quite a strong, you get a little bit of a kind of stronger pungenty citrus note to it. Almost a little bit lemony or limey, but then very quickly it becomes more kind of smooth and peary, if you like. You'll get a few kind of gooseberry-like notes out of the beer as well. Then as you reach the kind of front part of the very front tip of the tongue, it's really quite oily, and it's a mix of gooseberry and pear that you get, and it's maybe a little touch limey as well, to be quite honest with you. So that's quite an interesting note about this one. But the sour side of this beer, it's very subtle in my mind. The gooseberry notes that you get with this, they're quite, you know, that'll be the grapey edge that the beer has because of its barrel aging. So yeah, to me it's white green grapes and a mix of gooseberries and stuff like that you get out of this one, and they contribute to the oily. The very tip of your tongue is actually really oily in this one. You've got pear, you've got you know, gooseberry-ish type esters, maybe even a wee bit of apple in there, to be honest with you, and then just there's a wee touch of lemony zest on the very tip of your tongue too. So I definitely like how that goes together in this one. So thumbs up to Brekeriet once again. But the sourness of the beer, you take it in, it's got a wee bit of sharpness to it, but yeah, like I say, the sour side of this beer for me is very it is just very mild, to be honest with you. It maybe could be a straight Saison that's been brewed. It might not even be a sour beer, this one, come to think of it. There's a little touch of sour, kind of sourness to it. But to be honest with you, come to think of it, it doesn't taste that sour. You will get a lot more puckering sours, if you like, from Brekeriet than this one. So this could well be a straight Saison that's just been brewed and then put into the wine barrels to give it a little bit of an edge. But yeah, it's a lovely, very smooth and drinkable Saison for me, this one. I like this, I certainly do. It does remind me to a degree of the 4 Saisons that I had from 6 Degrees North back in Scotland. I think that was probably my introduction to the Saison beers as a style, rather than Saison DuPont or something. I still need to review that on the channel for you though, Saison DuPont. But yeah, this one's a lovely, lovely beer, this, and I would recommend you try it if you get the chance. Lots of really interesting kind of subtleties to this one. This one really does get a bit more complex the further you go into the aftertaste. You can feel more vanilla notes, more kind of smooth woody character coming out of it the further you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, thumbs up to Brekeriet for this one. This is more like it from them when it comes to the Saison style of beer. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, yeah, I would say top end of light bodied, bottom end of mid bodied, something like that. Nice kind of smooth carbonation, little touch oily, good degree of crispness to it in fairness. In terms of IBUs, I think we're talking about 15 IBUs, maybe even 20 at a push, to be honest with you. I think this is about a 15 IBU beer at maximum, to be honest. The middle of your palate, the malty side of things, the woody infusion, very smooth, a little touch sweet, so yeah, that's really nice with it as well. But yeah, I like how, I do like how this one goes together in that sense. But yeah, nice little bit of juicy fruity quality. The sour side of this beer, it does make me wonder, is this beer produced only, is it produced as a regular beer and then they've just barrel aged it rather than it being an out and out sour beer. But yeah, this one's been really interesting to review. I'm glad that I was able to get a hold of this one for you, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed my take as well. Lovely juicy and slightly more oily fruity characters out of this one. This would be quite a good summer Saison, to be honest with you. So yeah, lovely take on the Saison style. This one, Rioja barrels, white wine barrel aged, definitely. I'm pretty sure about that now. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Nobel Ek 2018 edition, 7% barrel aged Saison, aged in Rioja wine barrels, which I thought were red wine. Initially, I think I'm pretty sure it's white wine, but this one comes to you from Brekeriet, specialist sour beer brewery in Landskrona here in Skåne, in the very south of Sweden. I enjoyed reviewing this one for you. Hope you guys enjoyed my take on it. So yeah, let's leave it there. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brekeriet as well. We will return to these guys at some point fairly soon. And yeah, this was a very fun one to review, so thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Brekeriet, and you will see more from these guys later. Slange, skål, cheers.